In this video, I'm going to be reviewing a vintage Aurora Superna fountain pen. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. So, this is a vintage Aurora Superna. This is a pen that was launched in 1937. It came in a number of different celluloids. This is the black one. And, for price reasons and for durability reasons, I highly recommend the black one. Some of the other colors were not very stable, while the black one was really solid. And partly because those other ones were less stable, they are rare. And typically, the colored celluloids are always more expensive than the black ones. So you get kind of a double whammy with that, so they become quite a bit more pricey. Now, this is a very interesting pen. This is a predecessor to the Optima. However, this pen really has that Optima, vintage Optima shape. I should say the new Optima looks a little bit different, but the vintage Optima was very similar in shape to this. But this was sort of a predecessor. Now let's walk through the pen. It has these sort of rounded, almost flat ends. It won't stand on the desk, it's too round for that. But there's no finial there. We have this sort of tie-shaped clip that really pinches in the middle before flaring out. We do have some brassing on there. There is a step on the top of the cap here, and then there is a seam here where this would have been, I think, twisted onto the cap. There's a breather hole here in the cap and on the back. And then we have a very pretty engraved cap ring. There's two little ones flanking the big engraved one. Looks really, really nice. And then it tapers towards the edge of the cap there. On the body, there are no engravings. It does taper towards the tail. Now this is a blind cap, and this has what's called the notch filler. So you can push this little sphere forward or backwards to depress the sac inside the pen. It works very well. This is a very robust, at least the one on this pen is very robust feeling. We've seen this notch filler on the newer Aurora Leonardo limited edition pen. This is tight, whereas on the Leonardo pen, it was a bit loose. I will say this type of filling system was also used by Pilot. I used to have one of their Super 500 pens, which was a beautiful pen with a big inlaid nib. That was not very durable. So Aurora's execution here is very good. And speaking of the vintage Optima, the vintage Optima had a terrible filling system, in my opinion. It had like this big, or like this skinny little metal like syringe thing that you would pull out and then push back in. It was just a nightmare. So for somebody that wants to use a vintage pen, I really think this Superna model is excellent. And you get a lot of that Aurora Optima, vintage Aurora Optima look with this pen. At the time, this was definitely a premium model. This was the second pen to use this filling system after the Aurora Novum. One turn to unscrew it, and we have the classic big Aurora grip section here, which says Aurora and Superna. And then we have a big number 5 18 karat gold Aurora nib and ebonite feed. Now this pen is the senior size pen, and the senior size pens were available with number 5 and number 6 nibs. This is a number 5. I think it suits the pen very, very well. Number 6 is a little bit bigger, and then they had one smaller size Superna, which had the 2.5 size nib. Now one great thing about Auroras is, vintage Auroras, is that even if you don't get the senior size, they all had fat grip sections, so they were all really, really comfortable pens. So with Aurora, I would look at the nib, look at how flexible the nib is. I wouldn't worry as much about the size like I would worry with a Omas or a vintage Mont Blanc, because they were really shrinking down those sections with each size, whereas Aurora didn't really do that as much. So just pointing that out there. Really nice pen. Let's do some measurements. It's about 136 long, uncapped, about 125 millimeters. Then posted, it posts very nicely and securely, about 162. And it's a very comfortable pen. The grip section here, looking at 11.5 and then 9.6. Now let's do the weight. This does have ink in it, 23 grams, and uncapped, looking at 14.5 grams. So perfect classic weight. You know, this pen has a quality feel to it. It feels really solid despite that light weight. These are just really nice celluloid pens. Let's compare it to some other pens. I think first I want to compare it to this is an Omas Extra 557 from the 1940s. So these two were both the big size. So you can just see this really was like the classic large size of these vintage pens. Now I take the caps off here. Kudos to Aurora for one, making the bigger grip section and the fatter grip section. So it's longer and wider. You know, that's one of the benefits of Aurora's excellent design for writers. Now, if you get the 556 version of this Omas or the 555 version of it, the grip section gets just significantly smaller. So with Omas, I recommend going for the 557 if you can get it. Aurora doesn't matter quite as much. Now to compare it to some other pens, here it is with a modern Aurora America, which is basically just an Optima. And then here it is with a 149, which you can see is, you know, a proper big pen. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Paper Mind Tomoe River hardcover notebook. These notebooks are excellent with fountain pens. And for Blake's broadcast viewers and subscribers, you can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. All right. So this is the Aurora Superna. I would say this is a fine, I think, and this is Mont Blanc Toffee Brown. Try some fast writing. Just got to be a little bit careful with this, but did see one little skip there, but otherwise very nice, very smooth for how fine this nib is. I mean, and I wouldn't say that this is like an extra fine. I would say it's a proper fine. In terms of flexibility, you definitely have a nice amount there. This is, you know, a springy, flexible, vintage nib for sure. And the feed, you know, keeps up pretty nicely with it. You know, I do have some railroading here, but that was quite fast. In terms of reverse writing, it's pretty scratchy, and the benefit is pretty minimal, so I wouldn't say that's a great candidate for that. But overall, this is a really fantastic nib and just a fantastic pen overall. Very happy to have this pen. I've actually promised it to a friend, so I'm going to be saying goodbye to it, but it is just a really nice vintage pen. So what are my pros and cons for the Aurora Superna fountain pen? Well, this is a beautiful, comfortable, super nice writing fountain pen that's very well made. So I pretty much like everything about it. I think that the notch piston or the notch filling system works really well. It feels robust to me, which is something I can't say about a lot of other vintage filling systems. It's a really nice pen. The cons for this is finding one. You will have to wait a while to find a good one. They do come up, but there are not a lot of them out there. I would also say you're going to be probably wanting to stick to the black one because the other colors had a lot of problems with deterioration, whereas the black was very stable. The price, you know, I paid 500 euros for this. That's a really good price for a pen this nice. It's not cheap, but a big vintage pen with a flexible nib and an Italian one, I think that 500 euro price point is pretty warranted, but it's not cheap. That's pretty much it though. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.